Have you ever been in Poughkeepsie? You've been in Poughkeepsie, haven't you? I want to hear it! Come on!
Yes, I've
You've been there, right?
Yeah.
You sat on the edge of the bed, didn't you? You took off your shoes, put your finger between your toes, and picked your feet, didn't you? That's it!
Yes!
All right. You put a shield in my partner. You know what that means? God damn it! All winter long, I gotta listen to him gripe about his bowling scores. Now, I'm gonna bust your ass for those 3 bags, and I'm gonna nail you for picking your feet in Poughkeepsie.
The French Connection is a 1971 classic thriller film directed by William Friedkin that would win several awards and become a very highly acclaimed motion picture. Alain Charnier, played by Spanish actor Fernando Rey, is a French crime boss who runs the world's largest heroin smuggling operation. Alongside his hitman Pierre Nicolai, played by Marcel Bouzaffi, Charnier plans on smuggling $32 million worth of heroin into the United States by hiding it in the car of an unsuspecting friend and sending the car by way of ship from Marseille to New York City. New York City police detectives Jimmy Popeye Doyle, played by Gene Hackman, and Buddy Cloudy Russo, played by Roy Scheider, are investigating the connection between a man named Sal Boca, played by Tony LoBianco, and a lawyer named Joel Weinstock, played by Harold Gary. Weinstock is a major buyer in the narcotics underworld, and Doyle learns that a massive shipment of heroin will arrive in New York City within the next 2 weeks.
Brooklyn is loaded with guys that own candy stores, 2 cars, and like to go to nightclubs.
Yeah, but you put this little candy store hustler together with Joel Weinstock, and maybe we got a big score.
Big score my ass.
Walter, we got the information there's no shit on the street, right? It's like a goddamn desert full of junkies out there. Everybody waiting to get well.
Goddammit, this could be it. This little candy store guy, he's put on a big show in a fancy nightclub with no narcotics connections. They were all over him. And then on our own, after working a whole day and night, we tailed him to Brooklyn. And we sat on him for practically a week. Now, who do we come up with? Joel Weinstock, for Christ's sake. Now, you gotta let us have it.
Charnier realizes that he is under police surveillance, and he makes Popeye at Grand Central Station. His hitman Nikolai insists on killing Popeye, leading to a shootout in Brooklyn.
Get down!
Eventually, a chase ensues, leading to an elevated train where Nikolai kills a New York City Transit police officer as well as the conductor, hijacking the train and forcing it past all the regular stops. Popeye furiously pursues the train by car, and the train eventually collides with a stopped transit car, injuring passengers as well as Nikolai. Doyle catches up with the killer and delivers swift justice.
Hold it!
Soon, Popeye and Cloudy find hidden narcotics stashed inside of a car, and the police set up a stakeout, waiting for the drug dealers to make their final move. Now, this movie was based off of real-life events that happened back in the 1960s and 1970s. Heroin would originate from Indochina and Turkey, where Turkish farmers would grow opium poppies and sell to legal drug companies. However, many of those Turkish farmers would sell their excess opium to the underworld black market, where it would be manufactured into heroin. It would travel to illegal drug labs in Marseille, France, where the morphine paste would be refined, making it some of the highest quality heroin on the market. These labs were run by Corsican mafia gangs, led by bosses including Paul Carbone and Antoine Guérini. They would then traffic the heroin from the port of Marseille to the United States, Canada, and Cuba. The Corsican gangs were then protected by the CIA after World War II in exchange for helping to prevent the French communists from taking control of the old port of Marseille. The Scheider character was based upon Jean Jahan, who was eventually arrested in Paris for drug trafficking, although not extradited to the United States due to France not extraditing their citizens. The characters of Jimmy Popeye Doyle and Buddy Cloudy Russo were based off of real-life New York City police officers Eddie Egan and Sonny Garoso. Egan stars in the film as Doyle's captain Walt Simonson, and Garoso stars as an FBI agent. They were both the subjects of a 1969 book, The French Connection, written by Robin Moore, documenting their exhausting 1961 investigation of Jean Jahan and eventually the French Connection heroin network that arrived in New York City. They soon seized over 112 pounds of heroin, which at the time was a record amount, and that story was turned into the book upon which this film is based. Director William Friedkin was not in favor of actor Gene Hackman in the starring role, and several actors were considered for Popeye Doyle. Paul Newman was the first choice, but he was seen as too expensive to cast with the budget they had to work with. Jackie Gleason was considered, but his film career had cooled off considerably by the early 1970s. Charles Bronson was considered, and actor Peter Boyle was offered the role, but he turned it down because he didn't like the violent theme of the movie. They also considered New York columnist Jimmy Breslin, who had never acted before. The filmmakers couldn't afford Steve McQueen, and Lee Marvin, James Caan, and Robert Mitchum all turned down the role. Director William Friedkin was about to settle for Australian actor Rod Taylor when he finally agreed to cast Gene Hackman in the role. The casting of Spanish actor Fernando Rey happened on accident. William Friedkin was impressed after he saw actor Francisco Rebel in a French movie. Not remembering his name, he asked his casting director to find the Spanish actor from that movie. The casting director found the wrong guy, actor Fernando Rey, who had starred in other films that director had made. But in the end, it all worked out, and I think he is great as Scheider. The most memorable scene in the movie is the car chase scene, which is considered to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, car chases in any movie in history. The scene shows Popeye commandeering a Pontiac and frantically following an elevated train on which the hitman Nikolai is trying to escape. The camera used was under-cranked to 18 frames per second to enhance the sensation of speed. The scene concludes with Popeye confronting the hitman and shooting him. Some of the filmmakers worried that people would object to Popeye shooting an unarmed man in the back, but much to their surprise, the audience cheered. And I should note, the man had just murdered a police officer and a civilian, and I believe that shooting would probably be considered justifiable. This movie was among the earliest films to show the World Trade Center towers. You can see the completed North Tower and the partially completed South Tower in the background of the scenes at the shipyard following the car's arrival in New York. The French Connection was a massive box office success, making up to $75 million worldwide. At the 44th Academy Awards, the film went on to win Best Picture, Best Director, Best Editing, Best Screenplay, and Best Actor for actor Gene Hackman.
That's what it says.
This movie is very highly acclaimed, with some sources referencing it as one of the greatest films of all time. Now, while I enjoyed this movie, and I've seen it multiple times, the acting is fantastic, but I found the movie to be a little bit underwhelming. Most of this movie is actually rather slow-paced, involving lots of scenes of police surveillance work, and I found it to be somewhat tedious. However, since it has such a high acclaim, and has won so many awards with such a box office hit, and the acting is fantastic, I will go ahead and recommend The French Connection, especially for fans of police drama films of the 1970s.